All right, you guys, stop everything because we have caught Harley Pasternak red-handed. I don't know what's going on this year, you guys. Just like grandmas, people are just out of nowhere, just needing to grift off of their grandma's stories. Everyone wants to be a victim nowadays. That's what it really comes down to. Everybody wants to be a victim, and I don't know how this keeps happening. I don't know why I keep catching people out in half truths and lies about their grandmas and their genealogy. First, Kamala, now Harley Pasternak. This is crazy. Also, we have an update in the Blake Ryan Justin saga. It's weird. It involves a fake subpoena. I think it's definitely faked by Stephanie Jones PR. So we'll do a brief update of that. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I am currently rooting for Harvard University to win against the Trump administration in court. Really, I don't know what year this is, but I just said that and it is a fact. So let's jump right back in. Welcome back to Candace. This is the year of the grandma grift, guys. I don't know what it is. Everybody wants to grift off of their grandmas. It's strange. I absolutely adored my grandmother, but the idea of using her so that people would perceive me as a victim is very strange. It registers as very strange to me. All right, so where do we start? I guess we could start with how Harley Pasternak publicly represents himself. How do we even get here? Yeah, well, we are looking into the web of Hollywood lies. We are starting to realize that if you're in Hollywood, you probably shouldn't have a gym trainer or a bodyguard because a lot of people just seem to be with them when they are in their last moments of life or found floating in bathtubs. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And Harley Pasternak has a long list of clients who have been found in that regard. I mean, Brittany Murphy, her husband as well, rather notoriously, Mac Miller. Harley Pasternak spoke out. I was just about to meet with him. I can't believe this happened. It's weird. And then, of course, notorious threatening text message to Kanye West, which put him on our radar in the first place. So I started looking into Harley Pasternak, and he's definitely someone that I would say is proud of his heritage. So proud that what initially flagged me as weird was him holding up an unclear image of his grandmother. This image so far away. That's allegedly Lucy Pasternak, who he claims was a survivor of the Holocaust. Not only just a survivor of the Holocaust, but was in the worst camp, Auschwitz. And it says, this is a photo of my late grandmother, Lucy Pasternak. She was from Transylvania and survived Auschwitz. A great deal of who I am today is because of who she was. And he has this adorable little girl holding up the photo, but it's not a close shot. And I just was not able to confirm that. It struck me as odd that I could not confirm that. Like I said, they have been very particular about documenting exactly who came out of Auschwitz and survived. You typically can find their stories. There are entire websites dedicated to just videoing all of these stories, people just speaking and saying what they saw in the camps, how they lived, how they survived. And I just could not find this woman, Lucy, anywhere. Not saying it doesn't exist, just saying that I'd like to find it. I like to fact check things. I think that's okay, right? And what struck me as particularly odd about that as well was that Harley Pasternak has two brothers, Jesse and Bobby, who still live in Canada. They are extremely involved in their communities, and they are extremely involved, particularly in the Jewish community. But I couldn't find a single trace of them having mentioned that their grandmother, Lucy, was a survivor of Auschwitz. And I just thought that would have maybe come up somewhere in a speech that they were giving, or I don't know, a presentation they were giving somewhere. By the way, here's a publicly available photo of Harley and his brothers that Harley posted to his public Instagram account. It's obviously a throwback. Happy National Siblings Day. P.S. They are both taller and smarter than me now, and he tags his two brothers. Like I said, he's a very proud Pasternak. So I'm going through emails last night, looking through the tips that you guys send me at tips@CandaceOwens.com. And I always love when somebody personally has an experience with someone because it usually will send me down various rabbit holes. And there was one woman who emailed me who actually went on a date with Harley Pasternak in New York City. And she had a very specific memory that was bothering her, which is why she chose to email me. And I'm just going to read you this email in its entirety. She writes, blank, I went on a date with Harley 25 years ago in New York City. He was in town staying at the Parker Meridian Hotel on 57th Street as he was Halle Berry's nutritionist at the time. I worked there. He took me to Butter, and he knew the chef who was French, and he spoke to him in French when he came to the table to say hello. Anyways, he mentioned to me that his grandfather won a Nobel Prize. I forgot what it was for. I looked it up, and sure enough, he was Russian and did, in fact, win a Nobel Prize. Since you started this topic, it came to me again, and I put it in the chat. You said Boris was his cousin, but I am telling you that he told me that it was his grandfather who won the Nobel Prize. I hope this helps. Perhaps you know of some way to dig deeper. Harley has the air of someone who is massively confident. If confidence could walk, it would walk like Harley. No lie. Easy to talk to, intelligent, complimenting me on my own level of intelligence. A huge compliment coming from someone like him back then. Anyways, I had all but forgotten about that night. Thanks for the trip down memory lane. Okay, so she's working at the Parker Meridian Hotel, and Harley Pasternak takes her on a date, and he tells her that his grandfather won a Nobel Prize in literature. But we know that that's her. I believe her. I believe he said that, but it doesn't add up unless his grandfather is Boris Pasternak, the person that we told you is a cousin. Obviously, Boris Pasternak worked with the CIA. They distributed he was the writer of Dr. Zhivago. The CIA got this book, got hands on this book and distributed it throughout the USSR covertly. Also gave it to Joe Pasternak to turn it into a blockbuster movie, to give it 6 awards, because the world is a stage, my friends. We always think that we're just watching a movie, but in reality, we are being socially engineered. And this was a part of, like I said, CIA social engineering, deciding upon how they wanted to invade the minds of those that were living under the USSR to distrust their governments. Okay. So I got this email, and I believe her, like I said, and I'm going to my producers and my director, and I'm going, do you think that's legit? Like, could Boris Pasternak actually be his grandfather? That would be crazy. And they're like, oh, he probably just said that because he was just trying to like get this girl to think that he was even greater. And I'm pushing back gently because I'm going, okay, but why would he have to? I mean, she's working at the hotel. He's taking her on a date. His client is Halle Berry. She can Google him and see that he's kind of a big deal of a trainer, kind of a big deal. So why would he then lie about who his grandfather was? Is Harley Pasternak a liar in general? Anyways, I was having trouble piecing it together. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So we decided to start looking through old newspapers, and then said maybe we should stop looking at the paternal line, like stop looking at the Pasternak line, and instead focus on the maternal line, right? He's got a mother named Barbara Pasternak. We know that Barbara's maiden name is Shirkin. Let's just turn our attention to the maternal line and see what happens. And something happened, my friends. Suddenly, very unexpectedly, a few hours before we went live, which is why we're running late. My producer happened upon something that we were not expecting to pop up. Now, I want to remind you before I show you, before I get to the big bang here, yesterday we had uncovered something that was remarkably suspicious. We didn't really know what to think of it other than maybe the newspaper made a mistake. That was pertaining to Grandma Lucy. We were looking up Grandma Lucy Pasternak to confirm that she was in Auschwitz, that she survived Auschwitz. And rather, we happened upon her listed in Harley's brother's birth announcement, but they said that Harley's brother, this is a huge clue, that Harley's brother was Lucy's first grandchild. Here it is. The entry reads, it's a boy. Joe and Barbara, née Shirkin, are proud to announce the arrival of their son, weighing 8 pounds, 13 ounces, on January 19th, 1983. So that's like 9 years after Harley's born. The first grandchild of Lucy Pasternak of Montreal. Like I said, we just went, okay, maybe it just, somebody just forgot, I don't know, and just made a mistake here. We can't rely on newspapers to always be accurate. And then it describes him as the 4th grandchild of Morris and the late Vivian Shirkin. So again, we're focusing here on the Shirkin line, and here's what pops up. Drum roll, please, people. This entry pops up. Look at this. Mr. and Mrs. Morris Shirkin happily announced the engagement of their daughter, Barbara, to Alan, the son of Mr. and Mrs. Earl Fryman. Whoa. So just to be clear, we can pull that back up. Barbara is Harley's mother, just so you guys understand. And we're now learning that she was married to somebody else. And that somebody else's name is Alan Fryman. Okay. And then we find it. We happen upon Harley's, with that new information, looking up Fryman, are able to find Harley's birth announcement. And Harley was not born Harley Pasternak. Harley was born Harley Fryman. Harley is not a bloodline Pasternak. He's a Fryman. Here's his birth announcement. In the Toronto Star, announcement went out on August 10th. It says that he is born, and this is correct, on August 6th, that Alan and Barbara, née Shurkin, are proud to announce the birth of their son on August 6th, 1974, at Mount Sinai Hospital. Happy grandparents are Mr. and Mrs. Morris Shurkin and Mr. and Mrs. Earl Fryman. Mother and son are doing fine. Tells us that he weighs 9 pounds, 13 ounces. He was a big boy. And like I said, first grandchild for Morris and Vivian Shurkin, fifth grandchild for Goldie and Earl Fryman. Okay, so that means, oh, wait a second, that's weird. He's got nothing to do with Lucy. He's holding up a photo of Lucy. Okay, sure, your mom can get divorced and become remarried, and then that's your step grandmother that you're holding a photo of. Sure, this is getting a little strange, okay? So let me just show you this new Harley family tree, the accurate Harley family tree that we were able to establish. There's Harley there at the bottom. That's his dad, Alan Fryman, and that's Barbara Shurkin, who then married later on, even though we can't find her marriage record, but she became a Pasternak. So then we just have the Fryman as the paternal line. Now, if you're like me, you're trying to rationalize that. You're probably thinking, okay, well, if his mom got divorced and got remarried, maybe his biological dad simply wasn't in his life. Happens all the time. We come from a time, an era of broken families, deadbeat dads. Maybe that is the only grandma that he ever knew. I mean, we were at least able to follow that his name was Harley Fryman for the first 5 years of his life. We can't tell you what happened thereafter. But no, what we can tell you for certain is that his dad was not only in his life then, but his father is also in his life now. In fact, his father, his real father, Alan Fryman, is so involved in his life that he follows me on Instagram. Okay. Harley has blocked me on Instagram, but his biological dad is sleuthing me and follows me. We were able to find Alan Fryman on Instagram because he's following me. I don't know if I should be scared, but, you know, he's older. And I don't know. I feel like I should be okay here, but I'm on his radar in a very big way. And I can tell you he has a relationship with Harley. He definitively has a relationship with Harley because now he's an artist. He was not an artist throughout his entire life. They actually had were involved with regulatory business. His father was involved in a regulatory business with taxis. He was leasing out when videos were a thing. He was leasing out property and franchises. This is not some like small family that came here with pennies, okay? And he's now an artist, and the focus of his work is painting pictures of his son Harley, okay? So look at this. These are some of the photos that he paints. He's painting, or drawing, I don't know what this is, cartooning. I don't know anything about art. I'm not ashamed to admit that. But that's Harley. That's Harley's daughter, and that is Harley commenting with heart eyes on this photo. He sells these, just to be clear. He sells these pieces of artwork. He has a website, and like I said, a recurring theme is that he is drawing photos of his granddaughter. He has photos of Harley's daughter and him hugging his daughter, so he is a part of Harley's life. Very strange that when you go on Harley's accounts, you can't find a trace of this person. It's like he doesn't want people to think of him as a Fryman. So it's interesting, you guys. It is very interesting. Who is Harley Pasternak? Maybe he felt pressure to become consumed with this identity of being a real Pasternak. I think it's an interesting discussion. Why someone chooses to change their name if their father is still a part of their life. That's a tough conversation to have. And is it normal with your half brothers to be the one brother that has only one time ever stated that your grandmother, who we still cannot confirm, so your step grandmother, who we still cannot find, and despite all the emails that we have, no one has been able to confirm that there was a Lucy Pasternak that survived Auschwitz, which is very alarming to me. That's the ultimate grift. That's the Kamala Harris grift. If he made that up and just shot that photo and thought no one would find it, that means he's disturbed. It means he's a liar, and the worst kind of liar, like a kind of liar who should never have any power whatsoever. And that's what I take him for, by the way. I don't like his face. I don't even like Harley's face. Everything about his face gives me the ick. Don't trust him. Nope. Believe it's all a lie. He's like a trained liar, is what I think. But since we're at the beginning of this, I'm wondering if he spent, and maybe it's why I had so much trouble being able to find any documents on the early part of Harley Pasternak's life, including just trying to find like military entries, things of that nature. Maybe he was going by Fryman in general for a while. And maybe that's not something that he wants publicized. Oh, well, what you want and what you get when you start rolling around telling people that you're going to drug them, take their kids away, and send them back to La La Land. Two different things, you know? You don't get the right anymore to decide when people start looking at you and wondering who the hell you are and why it just seems that so many people that are around you just lose their minds. You're just so sober and so great and so focused and so fit. And yet the people around you are all going crazy. He even trained Ellen Page, who now goes by Elliot Page. It's incredible, the people, when you look through his roster, and you just wonder, why would anybody ever go to him to get healthy? Most explosively, by the way, we are still looking into the Pasternak family, obviously, because that is what he has pledged. And what we found, going back to Joe Pasternak, the patriarch, reminding you of MGM, one of the founders of Hollywood, if you will, alongside Sam Katz and one other individual from Paramount Studios. If we look at him as the patriarch of this family, what I found immediately strange is we knew that he had 4 children, but Wikipedia was only confirming 3 of them. As soon as I researched him, 4 children came up, but for whatever reason, we had a lot of difficulty identifying who the 4th child was. And I can show you who these first 3 children were. So this is going back to Joe Pasternak, the patriarch of the Pasternak family, who was cousins with Boris Pasternak. You see, we've got Michael, we've got Jeffrey, we've got Peter, and somebody emailed us and told us that the 4th child's name, who he has always hidden because he had her out of wedlock and not with Dorothy, is a Barbara Pasternak. So that is definitely something that needs to be further prodded. We are absolutely on it regarding what his children did, which is super interesting. Michael went by Emperor Roscoe. He was a radio DJ for BBC out in London, very popular. So they were involved in entertainment and deciding as a disc jockey what records were going to be played. Then you have Jeffrey George Pasternak, his other son. He recommended the group The Doors to his father, and he worked very closely with John Branca. That is one of the people that Michael Jackson named as being a part of this Hollywood mafia. People that he said were devilish and insane and that were essentially stealing from the artists that they worked with. So it's interesting to realize that the Pasternaks are connected to that and were close with John Branca early in his career managing The Doors. That's the Michael Jackson connection. And Peter Samuel was a playwright and a songwriter. So all around us, it's entertainment. We are looking to figure out, based on an email that someone sent us that looks legitimate, who that Barbara Pasternak is that was born in 1942, that they have gone through great lengths to keep secret from the public. That would be an heir to Joe Pasternak, born in 1942. So guys, send me your emails to tips@CandaceOwens.com. Also, we got a lot of people asking in the comments yesterday, what about Walter Pasternak? Yeah, what about him? Yeah, obviously we know Walter P. Pasternak was a Pasternak that was involved in the CIA MK Ultra experiment. So it would be fitting at this time. You put these pieces together. You've got Dr. Zhivago going on, Boris. You've got Joe Pasternak, Walter Pasternak of the CIA experiment, because I think Hollywood is a CIA experiment. I really do. We're going to talk about that more as we read Hollywood Babylon. We don't know where to put him in the chart because there's such little information available about him. Remember, this is the guy that no-showed Congress. We did, however, receive a confirmation that his middle initial stands for Paul. So we're looking for a Walter Paul Pasternak. According to the Library of Congress, they have files on him. He was involved with another individual who did show up for the congressional hearing, a guy in which they were both being questioned for this failed MK Ultra experiment where they were going to aerosol LSD onto unsuspecting people in San Francisco. I'm not kidding. This is your government. What do you want me to say? Okay, this is a real headline. The CIA sought to spray drugs on partygoers. So they were being questioned about that. Walter P. Pasternak and Burke, I'm sorry, and Rhodes, and this is from the New York Times article. It says today's testimony by Mr. Rhodes provided the first look the public has had at an LSD test inside a CIA safe house. Although the experiment he described was carried out only on one of his colleagues and ultimately failed. The agency carried out other drug tests in both California and New York City from 1953 to 1966 in such safe houses, mainly apartments and motel rooms. These were secretly rented for the agency by George White, an official of the old Federal Bureau of Narcotics, which has since been supplanted by the Drug Enforcement Administration. Mr. Rhodes, a psychologist employed by the CIA from 1957 to 1961, said he went to California in 1959 with Walter P. Pasternak to test a particular device to see if LSD could be given in small quantities via an aerosol. Mr. Pasternak, a former employee of the agency, was also an official with the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology, a foundation that was set up by John Gittinger, also an agency employee, to serve as a conduit for CIA money, end quote. So we don't know who this man is. I did find a Walter Paul Pasternak that is buried at the Arlington Cemetery in D.C., who was a lieutenant in World War II, but that is a tenuous at best, that connection. So we don't know. But obviously, we do know that when it comes to mind experimentation, those with the last name Pasternak, generally speaking, are people that I would avoid. And I will leave it at that as we throw it to some sponsors. First and foremost, Easter. Yes, it is Holy Week, my friends. It is a reminder that new life is possible because of Christ. Death doesn't get the final word. But right now in our nation, the most vulnerable lives are being discarded before they even take a breath. And women are being told that they're not strong enough, not capable enough to choose life. Preborn is the nation's largest pro-life organization, standing in the gap, offering free ultrasounds and the truth of gospel to the women that are in crisis. When a mother sees her baby, when she hears that there is hope, everything changes. This Easter, as we celebrate the power of resurrection, let's stand for life and empower women today. To give, you just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. Also remind you guys about the Wellness Company. Ivermectin and mebendazole are two powerful antipathogens. But what's even more fascinating is that these medications are frequently used in oncology to treat cancer patients. They have an anti-pathogenic properties that stunt the growth of harmful invaders or even have the potential to slow down abnormal cell growth. Did you know that 60 million Americans have parasites? Pretty scary number. Parasites secretly invade your body. They wreak havoc on your gut, your energy levels, and even your brain. And the mainstream medical system, they don't want you to think about it because one great cleanse could actually change your life. Wellness Company has a solution for you. It's ivermectin plus mebendazole, FDA-approved parasite solutions now combined in a one cleanse combo. So you just fill out a brief medical intake form to get your 3-month supply. There's lots of parasite cleanses that are all over social media, but not the gold standard level. The Wellness Company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so that you can live your best life. Just have to head to twc.health/Candace, and you can use code Candace to save $90 off. Plus, you'll get free shipping. That's twc.health/Candace and use code Candace. All right. Gotta get into this brief update regarding the Justin Baldoni case. It's a weird one. So we told you about Stephanie Jones of Stephanie Jones PR. She's like the PR woman from hell. Everybody's afraid of her. She's married to a partner over at WME. Hollywood's a small gang town, and pretty much you mess with one of them, you mess with all of them. And she was obviously crucial to this case, and she's someone that should be routinely discussed because the only reason that the New York Times had any text messages before there were any legal filings was because Stephanie Jones told her former employee on her last day of work after she said she was going to quit. She was working with Stephanie Jones, Jennifer Abel was, as a publicist, and Jennifer Abel quit. and she was quitting, and she was taking the Wayfarer account with her because they had already been working with her. And Stephanie Jones wasn't having it. And on the last day that she was supposed to be in the office, after giving her a 6 weeks notice, she calls her into the office. She's got a lawyer there, and Stephanie Jones is like, "Give me your phone." And Jennifer Abel begs, "Oh, this is my phone. I've had this phone forever. It has my contacts. It's got pictures of my granny. My granny was I don't know, probably making up some granny grift story here. That's what everybody does." And Stephanie's like, "Nope, I'm getting your phone." Next thing you know, the New York Times has this stuff, right? Well, Stephanie's excuse in the background of this has been that she was complying with a subpoena. On its face, that's a really stupid excuse, okay? Because she gathered this cell phone in August. Okay, there was no pending lawsuit. There was no lawsuit that was happening in which she would have had to comply with the subpoena. Also, and again, like I said, this totally relies upon the public being really dumb and not understanding. You can't just go up and be like, "I have a subpoena, give me your messages." A judge has to sign off on a subpoena to make it valid. So all of a sudden, Stephanie Jones is doing a bunch of PR right now. She's in the press, and she's giving it to Page Six, and she's giving it to Deadline, and these are some of the headlines. And all of them are writing that in the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively legal saga, the publicist rebuts the allegations that she leaked confidential information. And buried into it is that they're telling us that Deadline reviewed a copy of a subpoena cited by Jones, but they won't reveal it to the public. They do not want us to have a look at this alleged subpoena that they say was dated last October. Again, there were no lawsuits filed in October. The first filing in this case didn't come until December. That was when Blake Lively filed her CRD complaint. I believe the New York Times released their article on the same day, like December 20th is when all of this started and fired up. So what subpoena was Stephanie Jones complying with that was dated last October? Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. Something that's very conspicuous to me is the fact that Blake's legal team is not acknowledging any subpoena that they sent to Stephanie Jones. Neither is Ryan acknowledging that he sent a subpoena to Stephanie Jones. Essentially, Stephanie Jones is out on a raft by herself in the middle of the river saying, I was complying with a subpoena. And now she's calling her homies, and they're like, we saw a subpoena. We can't show you the public, but it's dated in October. Well, that's problematic for everybody. If that subpoena is dated in October, okay, and you're telling us that that went out, that's the same month that we have noted that the New York Times has some data that shows that they were working on an article. Look at the data. We have been saying this from the beginning. It shows us that October 31st of 2024, the New York Times began working on this article with Jennifer Abel's text messages that were already being embedded into it. So it seems much more likely a story to me that Stephanie's trying to cover her tracks, and that Stephanie got these messages because she was angry at her employee. She was angry at Jennifer Abel because how dare you leave me, and how dare you take one of our clients with you, an account that I didn't care about, that was too small for me, that you were working on. How dare you do that? She took her phone and she sought revenge. And I believe that Ryan was game, Blake was game, she was game, the New York Times was game, and they all got to work working on this expose, which was proven to be fraudulent by Brian Friedman, all the way back in October. And so what she's doing is going to harm the New York Times case, and it's going to harm Blake's case, and it's going to harm Ryan's case. It's going to help Justin Baldoni, because I'm telling you, this subpoena doesn't exist. Something's not right here, okay? A subpoena means a judge signed off on it. And let me tell you, by the way, guys, common sense, if you're trying to subpoena Jennifer Abel's text messages, why are you going through her former employer? I don't have the rights to that is not an assumption that any court would make. I don't have the rights to people that work for me. I don't have the rights to their phones. If somebody wanted to subpoena Savannah's text messages, why would you send it to my business? Like, why would you be like, I have a right to, this person works for you, so I have a right to these messages? I'd be like, okay, well, you got to put her name on the subpoena. So you don't need me and my office to get involved and say, hand me the phone. You're the court. You're the big guy. You're the judge. You go and you inform Jennifer Abel that she's got to cough up her messages. I don't want anything to do with this. I got enough on my plate already. It's highly suspicious. I'm telling you, this is a major sticking point. Something is not right with this subpoena that she is alleging was from October when we had we had a CRD complaint on December 20th. We didn't even have a lawsuit. CRD complaint is not a lawsuit. It's a complaint that's filed with the Civil Rights Department. We didn't even get our lawsuit until December 31st. The end of December is when the real lawsuits started to pick up. So keep your eye on that, guys. I'm telling you, that is definitely something to watch. Okay, last thing that I want to cover. Got to tell you guys, I never thought that I would see a day where I would be rooting for a university above Donald J. Trump and his administration. But I don't recognize his administration right now. I don't recognize what's happening. I have a theory. I do. We were kicking around some theories earlier, me and the team, and we were going, how could Trump be such a free speech enthusiast and allowing these things to happen? Going after college universities, trying to suppress speech while pretending that you're not suppressing speech, while pretending that you're fighting DEI. It's so messy. It's so obvious. Everyone knows what you're doing. People who are still trying to grift, I suppose, are not willing to challenge you on this, which is ridiculous, because when you are out of office, we are going to have to live with these consequences. Our children are going to have to grow up in this America, okay? So when you threaten our speech, it's not worth it so that we can have pom-poms and go hurrah for a couple of years, then go, okay, well, yeah, now it kind of stinks because, we're getting arrested for wrongthink. We got David Friedman. Yeah, arrest him. Arrest Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Get them. I love it. Everyone can see what's happening left and right. So to give you the background, obviously after October 7th, there were tons of student protests all across the nation. Some got violent, some didn't. But what has happened is people started demanding that universities start, taking on their own sorts of definitions for anti-Semitism, particularly the IHRA new updated definition of anti-Semitism, which I believe was, I think it was drafted by the ADL, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. The ADL put this together. Nothing good comes from the ADL. Their backstory is they were initially a gang that went mainstream, and their job is to suppress speech and to smear people, not to defend people against defamation. They are actually the defamers. That's why they think they're clever by calling themselves the Anti-Defamation League when they actually routinely engage in defamation. Anyways, this is Harvard received notice that they had to comply with the Trump administration's demands, okay? And essentially telling them how they would have to change things on campus. And they're, again, the administration is trying to paint this as they're coming and fighting DEI on campus, and they're not doing that. I'm going to show you it so you can see it with your own eyes. On Monday, Harvard became the first university to openly defy the Trump administration as it demanded sweeping changes to limit activism on campus. Activism is like synonymous with campus, okay? The university frames the government's demands as a threat not only to the Ivy League school, but to the autonomy that the Supreme Court has long granted American universities. They said in a quote, "The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights." That's what the university lawyers said on Monday. They continued, "Neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government." The federal government says it's freezing more than $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts to Harvard unless, essentially, we are going to hold your funding unless you comply with these demands. And I'm going to show you, because Harvard has released it, what they're asking them to do. First, I should tell you they've already complied with adopting the IRHA definition of anti-Semitism, which is ridiculous. But so how you have to read this is everywhere, and Skylar, if you don't mind making that a little bigger for me, everywhere that you see the word anti-Semitism, you have to ask yourself what the new definition of anti-Semitism is, because now we're at critique of Israel, the foreign state, essentially. So as they frame it down there as the discontinuation of DEI, which would be a good thing, saying that we want people to be merit-based and to let go of DEI-based policies, that would be a great thing because that is how the nation should run. They are actually asking them to reform programs that have egregious records of anti-Semitism or other biases, telling them to look at specific programs. Scroll down, Skylar, because I want to get to them essentially just framing this as them needing to take a look at who they're even allowing to come to Harvard on foreign visas and whether or not they disagree with Israel's policies. Like you have to adopt to new policies about student groups or clubs that forbid or endorse certain activities. They're talking about student groups that did not get violent but are opposed to Israel's agenda, which is totally fair because this country is not Israel. It's not Israel. You are totally allowed to critique Israel. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. It's telling them that these people need to be suspended, that they can't be allowed on campus. Again, making us think that Bibi Netanyahu must be the president of the United States and Trump has no idea what's going on. And I tend to think that there is a person who tells Trump that the press is favorable, that they love this, that people are loving this. Trump's not on YouTube. He's not on X. He says something to someone and they tweet it. Somebody decides what articles to put in front of him every morning. I know that for a fact, okay? So he who is picking that article, he who is telling him what tweets to look at, is the person that is shaping Trump's understanding of what his base feels. Now, Harvard, like I said, adopted this definition after pressure for anti-Semitism. So every time they mention anti-Semitism in those demands, which is plenty of times, they are referring to people that are critiquing Israel. Let's pull up that IHRA definition. It says the guide follows these examples, which may serve for several illustrations. Okay, the first one, you're like, yeah, calling for or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of radical ideology. Yeah, we already have laws in the book for that. You can't just like ask people to be murdered. You'd be in trouble. That makes sense. But then it gets really crazy because it says accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state. Sorry, that's inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. By the way, that's not even that's completely absurd. You should be allowed to, in a country that has free speech, if you say, I think the Holocaust numbers were exaggerated or I think they were underreported, that should be a matter of academic debate. That shouldn't be a matter of you being suspended from campus. Somebody could say, no, let me rebut that. This only exists for the Holocaust. If you go Google right now, Bolshevik Revolution, how many people died? They'll give you a range, 40 million to 60 million. How many Russians died in World War II? 80 million to 100 million. In what world could you not say, I think it's less? I think less Russians died during World War II, actually. You're gonna arrest me? You're gonna arrest the kids? As opposed to just saying, let me tell you why you're wrong? Does that seem normal to you guys? This is completely crazy. Let's pull up some more things because it gets even crazier. It says, holding Jews collectively responsible for the actions of the state of Israel. Here's a clue. If you want people who are feeling threatened on campus because of the response that people are having to feeling like their rights are being infringed upon, maybe don't infringe upon their rights to speech. This is not making it easier for their students on campus, I'm telling you, because this is making it seem like they get special consideration because these rules were not put into place to defend white people when BLM was going on, okay? These rules had never been put in place to defend anybody else. So we're talking about speech censorship. But on its face, it is speech censorship. Speech that you don't like or speech that makes you uncomfortable is not violent. You're not being hurt by speech or being challenged by ideas, okay? We got to get over snowflake culture. Let's pull it back up because then it's like parts of the Bible. Oh, the craziest one right there is accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priority of Jews worldwide than to the interests of their own nations. Lock them up. Lock him up. This guy thinks that this person's more loyal to Israel. I will guarantee you that there are commentators right now here in the United States who are more loyal to Israel than they are to the United States. Common sense, obviously. Lock me up, Trump. Take me away, DeSantis. Yeah, I think there are very clearly some people. David Friedman would be one of them that I would say is more loyal to Israel than he is to America. Oh gosh. The feds are coming. You're done. How dare you? It's the worst kind of anti-Semitism, listening to people's own words and deciding who they're more loyal to. Yeah, duh. Anybody can be more loyal to any country. People could be more loyal to Russia than they are to the United States. Maybe they're like, you know what? Russia has got an Orthodox Christian community. I like it. I prefer it. Maybe I'm more loyal to Vatican City. Could you imagine a law that's just like you just cannot say that Catholics are more loyal to the Vatican City than they are to America? We're going to lock you up. Absurd. Absolutely absurd and exhausting. It's like you're not a victim because somebody says that. Disprove the notion. Say I'm not. You don't get to cry like a baby and spike your ball and go home. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we know there are people that are more loyal to the state of. You want to know how we know? Because this is even being written down. Because this is even being considered as a definition, a working definition of anti-Semitism. Whoever created this working definition is more loyal to the state of Israel than they are to America. Because in America, we believe in free speech. How about that? Anyways, so for them to make Harvard adopt this definition and then to write out what they expect under this definition is the suppression of speech. It's the suppression of speech. There's no other way to look at it. The Trump administration is fighting against free speech in America. And that is very sad for me to say and to report as someone who has been a supporter of Donald Trump. Like I said, I think it is because whoever is behind him whispering in his ear, he who prints out the papers and rubs his back and says, you're doing great, everybody loves you, is the person who is running the White House. And it used to be Jared Kushner, and I don't know who that person is now, but I don't like it. It is, we cannot allow our rights to be infringed upon. And if you think it's going to stop with college campuses, you're out of your mind. So you better buck up and root for Harvard University in this fight. You better hope that they defeat the Trump administration and this absurd definition. And they even include parts of the Bible. They're like, you can't say that the Jews had anything to do with Christ, killing Christ, which is, what that is? It's not anti-Semitism. It's anti-Catholic. It's anti-Christian to tell me that we can't discuss how Christ was murdered. We can't discuss who it was that was plotting against Christ. We can't discuss the Pharisees and the scribes anymore, guys. We can't discuss the teachers. Because according to the new working definition, which all the college campuses are going to have to abide on first before they try to mainstream this, lock me up. I'm saying it. You ain't going to get me. You are not going to get me ever to comply with not speaking about Christ and being worried about your feelings and disregarding the facts of what happened. So count me out, suckers. Count me out. Anyways, moving on from that, speaking of suckers, do not get suckered into the same old free phone game by Big Wireless. These deals come with a lot of fine print, like requiring you to sign up for 4 lines, activation fees, plus more. At the end of the day, you've paid for that free phone about 3 times over. There's definitely a better way, and that better way is Pure Talk. My sponsor, my wireless company, has a much better offer. With a qualifying plan of just $35 a month, you can get the brand new Samsung Galaxy A26 for free. This phone is virtually indestructible Gorilla Glass, and it captures beautiful wide-angle photos with next-generation camera lenses. All you need to do is switch to Pure Talk. For just $35 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, and 15 gigs of data with a mobile hotspot, all on America's most dependable 5G network. So go to puretalk.com/Owens to make the switch. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to claim your free Samsung Galaxy, the qualifying plan when you switch to Pure Talk. That's wireless by Americans for Americans. Also, American financing. I'm reminding you guys that interest rates have dropped and it's time to take advantage. A lot of Americans are struggling to keep up with everyday bills, eggs, coffee, and many more are reaching for the credit cards to pay for this. If you're a homeowner, interest rates have fallen into the 5s. It's nearly a quarter of the average credit card rate. American financing is helping homeowners like you save an average of $800 a month by tapping into your home's equity and wiping out high interest debt. And the best part is that there are no upfront fees to get started. Credit card rates are insane right now. So if you're carrying a balance every month and you're stuck in an endless cycle, you can break free today by calling American Financing and seeing how much you could be saving. And if you start now, you may even delay the next 2 mortgage payments. So call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, you guys, for those of you that are in the book club, I am sorry. We are going to have to bump it to tomorrow. It is totally my fault. I am saying way too many apologies. I'm usually so good about scheduling, but I have just I just have to plead pregnancy on this one. I'm just my whole day got bumped when we got that last minute thing about Harvey. And I just think that tomorrow would be better. So tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll have the book club. If you guys have not signed up, that gives you an extra day to get Hollywood Babylon on Amazon. That's Hollywood Babylon is our next read. So we will just be doing tomorrow at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern, a combination of the last couple of chapters and just kind of doing remembering what we need to remember to go into Hollywood Babylon about what we're taking away from chaos as we jump into Hollywood Babylon, which, like I said, has been very serendipitous given everything that we are speaking about with the Pasternak family, with Joe Pasternak, with understanding Paramount, Columbia Studios, with the CIA. It's all going to fit in together very neatly. And we are also going to speak about the occult, because we absolutely have to speak about the occult. Now I am going to read some of your comments here. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Do we have up first? Zyra Mina writes, I love that you're not taking your foot off of Harley's neck. If anyone can get to the bottom of a sketch situation in a past that's trying to be erased, rewritten, or hidden, it is Suge. I mean, Candace, we will miss you, Mama Bear. Thank you very much. I just don't like people that bully other people. I just don't like what he did to Kanye. Whatever cocktail of drugs he gave him, Kanye was never the same, but he remembers exactly what happened to him and who did it. And I will always defend him from that, because it's unimaginable to have the whole world then call you crazy, and then you point and say, this person literally gave me a cocktail of drugs and is threatening to do it again. And people just keep going, well, why are you so erratic and crazy? It can't happen, you know? This person writes, this is the court of random opinion, for the they're here for the granny grift stories. I mean, everybody get on it. Everyone needs to be a victim these days. Gotta tell you guys that. Yeah, my grandma survived slavery 3 times. Just wanted you guys to know that about my granny. So, you know, it is what it is. Here's a picture of her, blurry pic of her. TB writes, Candace, please look into the Lou Taylor TriStar Sports and Entertainment. Kanye tweeted a pic of her recently. She was behind the Britney conservatorship. Bieber just fired her, and she did Kylie Cosmetics sales for Kris Jenner. Kris Jenner and her are BFFs. Yeah, I've heard that name come up a bit. I will take a look at that. Probably on maternity leave. We'll have time to just do tons of deep dives and come back at you guys with so much information. Ryan, by the way, I should want to say this. I don't do drugs, okay? So if I'm found floating in a bathroom, like, I also don't take baths. So if I'm flying, it's just not me. Someone did it, okay? Someone did it. Brian writes, I rewatched yesterday's podcast and I'm struck by so many similarities between some world leaders, the crime families, and national security agencies. Do you also see the similarities? Yeah. They are a part of something, which we will get into when we read Hollywood Babylon. And the more you know about Sigmund Freud, the better. That's what's at the bottom of all this. It's psychology. That's why they're all psychologists. And it's a very scary world when you realize that you are fighting people that believe in the occult. And that is just the reality. They believe in the occult. S writes, hi, Candace, I'm Canadian and we have an election coming. I feel demotivated to vote as both prime candidates seem to not be great and have foreign allegiance. What do you think? As a Muslim, Christ is king and God is the greatest. I sense it. I agree. I understand why everybody is feeling fatigued with politics. It's, like I said, never been more obvious that the world is a stage and that people get up there to get elected and they say things that you want to hear. And then as soon as they're in office, none of it happens. Or they do the exact reverse thing that you thought was going to happen. So I guess I'm just kind of empathizing with you, but I feel tremendously optimistic about the younger generation that's coming up. And I'm tremendously optimistic about the conversations that we're having. We didn't get to it today. We'll get to it tomorrow, but even Tucker Carlson going out on the third rail and discussing 9/11 again, and people that are starting to finally, I guess, just sort of remove the blinders from their eyes and see how unreal the world we live in actually is and how orchestrated it all is. That's kind of the first step, right? It's like realizing that the world is sick and that the world is a stage. So at least we're at the first step. Kyle writes, either Trump has knelt or was always a psyop. Solutions will never come from government. Democracy is always an illusion. Decentralized systems must be built, disseminated, and adopted so as to make government superfluous. I'm just going to read that comment and let it sit. You know, I agree that democracy is totally an illusion. I believe in decentralized systems, and you obviously know that the CIA is fearful of that when you get into looking into all of the mysterious crypto deaths. Definitely something that happened there. Black Scorpio writes, Stephanie Jones is obviously lying. Otherwise, they would produce a copy. That simple. Drop the receipts. Brian Friedman it. Lawsuitinfo.com. Drop it all. Let us read it and say who's telling the truth. She won't do that. She's just like, write the article. I'll show you the subpoena. But we're not going to show the public the subpoena. But there was a subpoena, and that's what I was doing. No, you're not. It's just not honest, Steph, because you would have dropped it in your own lawsuit. We would have seen the subpoena as proof in your own lawsuit, like the Appendix G or something would have been like, here's the subpoena that I received and I was complying with. If you were just being an evil wench, just admit it. Just admit it. Builds by Taylor writes Walter Pasternak's nephew, Paul Pasternak, did a phone interview back in 2015 regarding his uncle's involvement in MK Ultra. Oh, that's interesting. So if we knew that he had a nephew named Paul, we might be able to attach him to that Walter Pasternak that I found at the that was buried in Arlington. That's interesting. Thank you for that. It says the video can be found here on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you. I will search for that. Otherwise, you guys send me more tips at CandaceOwens.com. Love you majorly. I can't believe, by the way, what do we have? Like 7 episodes left? 8 episodes left? We're at the end here. I can't believe it. We're at the end. It's only going to be for a little bit, but it's going to be sad. Anyways, you guys, I'll see you tomorrow.